So last week, I put my students into breakout rooms and had them play a strategy game. And the game was custom built for how we teach strategy at the MBA. And it was really fun because teams were competing with each other and we got some of the best feedback from students. And I built this game in under 10 hours and spent less than 10 euros on AI tokens. And yeah, I'm not a developer. And in this video, I want to show you the game, how I built it, and why I think this is a really cool use case for vibe coding. So let's jump in. So first, I think it's best if I just show you the game. I have it right here. And what you need to understand is that there is like an admin view and a player view. A player view is something that students would use, and an admin view is something that the game master, me, and the facilitator would use. I think it's best to understand the game if we go through the player view first. So what we would do is we would put students in teams of 3 or 4 into breakout rooms, and each team would need to have one of these instances of these games playing. So one of the students would be sharing their screen and they would be reading through this scenario of the game together and play it together. So I'll just very quickly go through this. So the scenario is that it's 2026 and the AI design tools market is booming and so on and so on. So they need to be designing this AI software. And mind you, the students are like professional designers. That's why this game is in this context. And the catch is that they have a limited budget, right? So they have some money or some points they need to basically, sort towards certain investments and functions of this product. So they have 20 investment points and they can choose one customer segment. And these are these 7 strategic activities or things they can invest their money in. So AI quality, ease of use, customization, and so on. And the 3 customer segments: freelancers, enterprise teams, and design students, right? So what we're doing right now in the game flow is explaining basically the rules and explaining all the important parts that go into playing the game. And then some more tips and how the scoring works. I think for us in this video, it's not that important. So the game starts now. So they can either set their own name or they can choose a random name. They can also go through this and find the one that they like. Let's go with cost leaders. And now they have joined the game. So what I or Tom, who was with me in the call, would do is we would be here in the admin console and we would basically see what they're doing. And we could start a round, and we could end the round, reset the game, and so on. So in this case, let's just say that 5 teams have joined. We can start the round. And so what the players see is now they can make the investment decisions, the strategic decisions, which is based on how we teach this specific module. So they can choose the customer segment from freelancers to enterprise team, design students, as we discussed before, and have 20 points they can allocate in these 7 buckets. And the thing is, they only have 20 points, but there's 35 points available. So they need to be mindful of what their customer segment actually wants and values so that they are building the best kind of product and the best kind of strategy. So when they're done, they can submit allocation. They have basically 7 minutes per round to decide. And then they need to choose a customer segment. Let's go with enterprise teams. Okay, so basically, they can see the decision they have made, and it's drawn in a strategy canvas, which is just a graph that we're using in this module to teach strategy. And they're also able to give us some feedback. How confident are you in your strategy? What was the hardest in this round? And maybe any questions or comments. And that's very useful for us as game masters or facilitators because we are getting some input for see how the teams are doing, but also for maybe facilitating. Because what's happening on this side is we in the admin panel can also see their response, right? And as responses are coming in, we can see more and more graphs. In this case, obviously, we have just one player playing, but if we just simulate this for 7 teams, we can see how this looks like if 7 teams were playing, right? So we can see their graphs. And when I also end the round, then the game actually assigns the value to each team in terms of how good their strategy was, right? So all of these were $0 before, and now we can see some monetary value. So UX wizards have done the best job, and strategy lines have made the least amount of revenue. So now, and again, this is the admin view, so players are not seeing this. What they're seeing is basically their strategy and the results. What we are seeing as admins is round analysis and some discussion questions. So we're getting some ideas for what kind of questions we could ask. Maybe like, hey, cost leaders, you put 0 into support. Why is that? So this game is not just helping students learn, but it's also helping us facilitate the session. What I forgot to mention, actually I left it out intentionally because I didn't want to confuse you, is that we have the third view. So this is the player view, this is the admin view, and then we have a presenter view. And a presenter view is something that we would be comfortable sharing, screen sharing in a digital environment. It's just made a little bit more so that it's just showing what is relevant for students. So they can, after each round, we would share the screen and show them results, show them all of their graphs. We can also unclick some of those if we want to focus on fewer teams. Let's say we just want to compare these two, we could just do it this way. And then they can also see the key insights in the round 1 analysis. So this is the presenter view. This is the admin view. So from the game master, but we can start rounds, finish rounds, reset game, and so on. And this is the player view where they see what they can, basically decisions they can make. So you can see that it's not a non-trivial game. There was quite some logic that needed to be built into this, from basically how the scoring happens, right? So for example, scoring in terms of how much revenue the team has made depends on if they match the customer segment with what they care about. And we wrote this also here. So freelancers, they care about ease of use, community, and low price. Enterprise cares about this, and students care about that. And so we can see that the better you match what they care about with your investments, the more revenue you can make. The more investments you make, the higher the price of your product, which hurts the price-sensitive segment, and so on. So not the main point for us to go through the scoring, but it's just there's a lot of logic that needed to be built here. There's even some really nice additional built-in features, such as if the team has issues, they can also request for help. And then we, in the admin view, we will actually see this, actually help requested. You would see it like, where is it? No, because I simulated this game. Now it's not showing here. So they have definitely requested this. Okay, maybe this is one bug, or maybe because I simulated the teams, now it's just showing. But what would happen is when the teams click here, which is what I've done actually, then we would see a message here, hey, join room 5, they have a question for you. So pretty cool app. I mean, this is something I wanted to build for years. The problem is that the way we teach strategy is pretty specific because we have a specific audience of designers. So we go through like the most important tool for us in this module is called Strategy Canvas and Porter's Generic Strategies. And you can't just buy online access to strategy games where we as providers, educational providers, could buy a game and then just, offer them to our students. So I always had this idea for I want to build this game, but it was just always like probably too expensive to do it. Don't have enough time to actually hire a developer for this. So we never did it. So the way we have solved this so far was we mostly had assignments. So then students would actually individually have a certain assignment. They had a certain task, what I had to do, and then they would individually basically go through a task like this and submit it as an assignment. But I always had a feeling that game would be, it would be bringing two additional aspects to the learning, which I think is very important. One is fun, and I think fun is just very important. We learn better when our brain is more activated, and we're just bored, a lot of us, in everything we do. And then if you're hopping on an online course where you're also just listening to a discussion or one person answering your questions, it's not as dynamic and captivating as being part of a team and playing something is. And yeah, that's another thing I wanted to build, which is like this being a multiplayer game, a group game. So we have now a team of 3 or 4 discussing, talking through strategies, and that's what really counts. And there's also a little bit of competitiveness, which just makes it more fun. And as I said before, it was always too expensive to do until now, when I started playing with Claude Code. And obviously, there's other providers of this as well, but it's just an AI model that helps you vibe code. And what I did was basically explain to Claude Code what we teach in business strategy. And without giving it any specs or PRD or wireframes, I just explained, hey, this is the game I want to build. It's a multiplayer strategy game based on this content. Let's do a prototype together. And I brought it to a pretty solid state. Then I handed over to Tom, my colleague, and then we would basically collaborate on developing this app together. And both of us together didn't spend more than 10 hours on this and more than $10 in AI tokens. So we went from an idea of having this or teaching this as a game, and this idea feeling very unrealistic because it would take too much time and too much money, to something that we built literally. So on Thursday afternoon, we had a practice session. On Wednesday morning, I had this idea and I just like, hey, let's give it a go. And by Wednesday afternoon, the prototype was in a stage where I just showed it to Tom, and Tom was like, yeah, let's do it. So he took over, he made it look nicer. So hats off, Tom, for the UX built in. I was more working on the logic. Oh, now you can see how, if a team asks for help, how it looks like in the view. So yeah, he built out the UX, debugged it, and then we made this, what you see now, which I think is pretty amazing for just 10 hours. And based on the feedback we have gotten on Thursday, it went pretty well. So we asked in the end, like, how did you like it? Just rate this game from 1 to 5. And pretty overwhelmingly, it was either just 5s, a few 4s, 5. So very, very overwhelmingly positive result. And I think what we liked the most is, at a certain point in running this session, we would just put students into breakout rooms and we wouldn't really know what's going on. And we would feel a little bit nervous, like, are they getting it? Is it working? All of these things. And then Tom and I each joined a few breakout rooms. And when we came back from those breakout rooms and just shared what happened, we both just said, yeah, it's working. Because what we saw in the breakout rooms was just energy and discussions and smiles. And honestly speaking, this is something we would very rarely see in an online setup. Like when you put people in breakout rooms, you always have the quiet, the people who are not as talkative as others, and some awkward silences. And there was none of that in this one, because it was very clear what they were doing. There was a game. It just felt different. And I really feel we found something amazingly interesting that we're building now, also for all the other modules, and I think could frankly become like the future of online education. So instead of just having dry online practice sessions or coaching calls, we can be building games or situations where individuals or teams can be actually experiencing the lessons we want to teach in a more interactive, more realistic and fun environment. And yeah, we were really afraid also for launching this app because, as I said, we built it in like 1 day and a half. And I have to say, we were afraid if it's going to work or not, but we just felt it's too good of a chance to not try it. And we did come across a couple of bugs, and sorry for that if you're watching this, dear students, and we will be improving those. But it was frankly just really minor. It just happened to one team at a certain round. They were not able to submit their answer. And even that was solvable. But we need to find a solution to that so that the teams know how to do this themselves. So all in all, really, really good result. So I think I just want to conclude with a bigger idea, which is that a lot of people talk about vibe coding, and when they talk about it, they talk about, well, the public apps, as in, we should build a app that we can sell, software as a service. And yeah, I think that's definitely true. But there's a whole world of private apps that we could be building. So what I mean with private app is we built a game, but we didn't really now share it publicly. There's no like publicly accessible URL link that you can type in and get to play the game, because that's not the point. We want to be there to facilitate the game. And there's a lot of things we have done by hand or didn't do so far at the DMBA that we will be now building this backend private apps. And a lot of the downsides of vibe coding are actually gone with that, because a lot of people talk about, people are vibe coding apps and then they have a lot of security holes and so on. And that's true. But with private apps, when you're actually just sharing this link with 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 people who are actually part of the product or service or event that you're offering, the security is just much less crucial. It's still important, but if you're not really publicly sharing the app, it's way less likely that anyone who could exploit it will find it. Same thing for scale, like a lot of these vibe coded apps work until you hit a certain limit of users. But here we're talking about, by definition, smaller usage bases. And also hosting wise, we didn't have to deploy this app on a server. We could, but we just decided to use our machines as servers. And if this sounds like a scientific talk, it was to me as well. But basically, I just went to Cloud Code and said, hey, is there a way for me to share this game live while I'm, in a call? And it just walked me through the process, and it's pretty simple, So our machine, well, in this case, Tom's machine, was the server, and it created a one-time URL link that we shared with students, and they could use it. And now the game is not online at this stage, because we don't need it to be online. We just need it when we're actually teaching. So yeah, I mean, honestly, my mind is blown with possibilities of what we can build and what the future looks like. So hope you found this also inspiring and maybe see how you can use it in your business. Yeah, I mean, this is actually the third or fourth thing I've built with Cloud Code. I'm not a developer, so I think a lot of us who are in similar situations can just use Cloud Code to learn these things. But yeah, if you're interested to find more examples of what you can build with Cloud Code, you can also see my other video with an example of what we have built for DMBA, and check it out. And yeah, see you in the next one.